Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are when you're watching this or whatever time you're watching this. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is probably one of the most difficult videos I have ever had to do. And the reason being is because typically when I record videos, I operate from a state of flow, like I'm in a good spirit, I have something positive I want to share, I'm excited to engage with people. Today's video is different. To be totally transparent, I have been dealing with a lot of difficult emotions for the last several weeks, honestly. And it's been difficult for me as a person who I consider myself pretty good with words. I journal a lot, I write a lot, I blog, I podcast, I record videos, I go live. I talk to people a lot. I have totally shut down. With everything going on in the world and with me being an empath, the amount of pain that I have felt, in the last few weeks has been unreal, surreal. 3 nights ago, I had to sit down my 11-year-old daughter and talk to her about the experience. And trying to rationalize with an 11-year-old that certain things will never be able to make sense is so difficult. But you guys have to excuse me. But as a Black woman, I don't have the luxury to say, you know what? No, I'm not going to let my daughter know about that. I am going to act like that's non-existent for my daughter because this is very much so her reality. And eventually I'll have to sit down my 7-year-old and explain to her too. But it's just been hard. It's just been very, very unbearable. Needless to say, because I have been at a loss for words, I haven't been able to show up as the happy-go-lucky Dr. Nicolia that you guys typically see. And so I have been spending this time really processing a lot of my thoughts and my feelings about this entire situation. And just first off, my heart is just broken. But while I'd like to stay in this angry and frustrated place, I recognize that as a leader, it is important to show up. And so what I want to do today is I want to share some strategies for those that are curious about, like, what can we do, right? I believe that we all have voices that the world need to hear from. That's why I'm really passionate about helping people write books, right? Because I believe we have stories and voices that can change lives. But especially in this season, we have to use our voices to demand change. So one of the first ways, if you're looking for a strategy to use your voices to speak up about racism, about inequality, about injustice, speak up about it. Share about maybe something you've witnessed. Share about what you'd like to see. If you are not a person of color and you're like, what do I say? Share up about the fact that you don't tolerate it, that you don't like it. I think in these instances, I had an experience, an unfortunate experience about 2 days ago where I have a family member. She is not African American, but she is adopted and she was raised with all of us. And so she's raised in a Black household, and she is like 100%, like she's totally shifted. She got married to a gentleman who I don't believe is really at all ever trying to be understanding of us as a community. But I also believe he stepped in with his own bias, implicit bias, and things like that. And so because of that, because she's married to him, she's kind of adopted these beliefs, and it's made it difficult. And so as I started to speak up about some of the things I was experiencing, some of my pain, some of my hurt, I got a lot of really hurtful comments from her and her significant other. And it made me realize, like, for those that are speaking up against their whole family, that has to be very hard. So I just want to take a moment and, like, hats off to you for doing that. But please don't stop. Keep speaking up. Is huge. It is so important. I had a friend of mine that I tried to explain what the Black Lives Matter movement was. And I'm sure you guys have heard the analogy, but I was like, if there's a million houses on fire, and all the houses are on fire on your street, and the fire truck comes and they're extinguishing the fire at your house, you're not gonna say all houses matter, because that house is the house that's on fire, so that's the house they're gonna give attention to. So it's the same thing with the Black Lives Matter movement. Like, we understand that all lives matter. Society has shown that all lives matter. It has historically been proven that all lives matter. But what we're asking you to do is to pay attention to the fact that our lives are currently the one on fire. So I remember a few years ago, I was explaining this and I was frustrated. Like, why do I even have to explain this? Why do I have to do this? But that same person reached out to me recently and said, I know that I can never understand, but I finally can start to see why this movement is so important. And so it made me realize, because this happened when the Trayvon Martin situation happened a few years ago. And it made me realize, sorry guys, how important it is to keep showing up, to keep talking, to keep making people aware. So if you're doing that now, thank you. Keep doing it. It may not resonate with everybody. It may only resonate with a few people. It may not resonate with anybody at this time, but it may resonate a few years later. Like I had an experience with a former coworker, and a former friend. So keep talking about it. Keep bringing awareness to this topic. If you are around a place where you can go and protest and share your voice, do it. I know that there's a lot of stigma around the protests right now, where everyone's believing that there's a bunch of like looting and breaking into things. I've been to 2 protests this week. I went to one with my daughters, the most peaceful protest I've ever been to. And it was life-changing to be there with them and just let them know, like, you're part of history. You're using your voice for change, which is amazing. And the second protest I went to as well, that one was very peaceful, began very peacefully, and took a very left turn due to really aggressive behaviors from the police. And I could never know why they made the choice they made in that moment, but I do know that the protesters' intentions were pure. And so if there's a protest that you feel comfortable to go to, go. Walk, use your voice for change, speak out against injustice. Martin Luther King says a riot is the voice of the unheard. And I think that people are missing that, right? They think that we're being crazy or extreme, but like, our voices have been unheard. We've tried everything. We have tried everything that we can think of. I mean, Rosa Parks sat, Colin Kaepernick knelt. Martin Luther King took a stand. Like, we've tried everything, and nothing has been able to shift change. And so I don't know what the solution is, other than us continuing to just press on it, just continuing to press on the issue. So if you can go and you feel comfortable, go. For those that like maybe aren't African American, and you're like, okay, well, what do I do? I had a really, really good friend send me the nicest message ever. And she said, I haven't been able to formulate my thoughts, but you're on my mind. And while I may not personally understand, I'm willing to listen and learn. And please know that I'm here for you. That one message, what that did for me as a woman of color, let me know that I have an ally. One thing that I think that people often overlook about our experience as a person of color in America in general is that it is difficult to know who's on your side and who's not, right? You don't know if somebody really respects you. You don't know if someone is secretly judging you or secretly being racist or anything like that. And so it's so difficult to differentiate. But when you have people that step in at a time like this, it is so powerful, because it's like, wow, you really do care about me. You really are paying attention to the fact that this may bother me. And the fact that you say that you're willing to listen and learn is huge, because that's the first step. Another strategy that you can incorporate is art. I've had my daughter draw she's really into art. She has a YouTube channel and she does art on. And so as a way to get her voice out, she was very emotional the other day, and art is very therapeutic. So I had her draw different thoughts that she had about the situation, and she was able to share that on her YouTube channel. And that was a great outlet for her. That was a great way for her to raise awareness, and her small community, and for kids her age, kids that look like her and kids that don't, but as a way to incorporate one of her strong suits. That was huge for her. The most important thing that I'm going to say during this season that we got to do is we got to do self-care. I know for me, I'm a person that's like, go, 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 go. And I do prioritize self-care. But I think during this season, I've missed it. If I can be totally honest, I've had nightmares after nightmares of thinking about Breonna Taylor. Like, she died in her sleep. What if this is the last night I go to sleep? Yesterday, I was on a walk, and there was a policeman literally walking behind me. I don't know to this very moment if he was going to look for somebody else. He didn't say anything to me. But the level of fear, the intense level of fear that I had when I was just desiring to go on a peaceful walk. I couldn't even enjoy my walk. It was supposed to be an hour walk, and I turned back at like 32 minutes because my paranoia was so high about what his intentions were and why he was behind me. And so I recognized that I was really overwhelmed. I'm not getting sleep. I wasn't really getting the exercise that I needed. I wasn't able to focus. I just noticed the shift in my demeanor. I've been crying, so I'm literally physically drained. And I just recognized the need for self-care. And that's what I want to share with you guys most importantly during this season. I think sometimes we overlook that things like this can be as traumatizing as they are. Like, on the surface, we know that it's traumatizing. On the surface level, we know that it hurts. But deeper than that, like, people, I was not personally able to do it. I'm an empath. I carry so much. But people that watch that video repetitively of poor dear George Floyd being murdered on camera by a police officer for nothing. I'm just for nothing. That's trauma. That is trauma. That you're introducing your brain to. That you're maintaining exposure to. So you got to take a break. One of the things that I committed to this week is I took 48 hours off of social media, which is difficult as a business owner, right? I like to show up. I like to be there for my clients, but I know that I'm no good for anybody else unless I'm first good for myself. And so I took a step back and I stopped. And I just took time to take care of myself. So as we're in this season, I want you to think about ways that you can take care of yourself. And I know sometimes it feels like you got to be out on the front line. You got to be doing this. You got to be posting. You got to be doing all these things. But in reality, like I mentioned, like, if you don't take care of yourself, everything else will fall by the wayside. So take a moment to think about what you need. Our bodies are so powerful. Like, if we connect with our body just a little bit, you'll learn so much. Your body will tell you need rest. Your body will tell you when you need to sit still. Your body will tell you when it's hungry. Like, your body will tell you everything. So just take time to be still with your body. Take time to journal. Take time to do yoga or to meditate, to eat healthy, to move your body, to get a good amount of sleep. Take time to be in community with people that you can just talk to and enjoy time with. But take time to take care of yourself in this season. That is going to be so important. And the more you take care of yourself, the more you can show up in a way that helps other people. Like, I haven't been able to do a video in probably about 2 weeks, but because I've made self-care a priority for the last 48 hours of like shutting things down, only working on the things that helped me focus on taking care of myself, I'm able to show up and do this video. Now, it's not obviously very far from perfect, and I'm not sad about that at all. This is very raw and real. But I was able to show up and do this video to give you guys strategies because I first made sure to try some strategies myself and first made sure to really take care of myself. And so I challenge you to do the same. If you know anybody that's struggling in this season, hold space for them. Hold space for them, meaning, like, if you're open to it, talk to them, listen to them, pray for them. One of the things that I have been doing, and I always do this, but I'm extremely committed to it now, is praying, right? I'm praying for peace. I'm praying for justice. I'm praying for clarity. I'm praying for understanding. I'm praying for all of us, because we're just so broken right now. And when I've been praying, there's just so many thoughts that have been coming to mind. But one verse that keeps coming to my mind is Proverbs 3:5. It's like, trust in your Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. So Proverbs 3:5 and 6. But that is so true, right? Because I think a lot of times we want to trust in what we see, what we can feel, what we can touch. And right now, if we wanted to trust in that, it would all just be all up in arms, right? It would make no sense. There would be nothing. It would be too overwhelming. But instead, if we choose to trust in the Lord, he'll direct our path. That's right. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not into your own understanding, because you can't understand it. You can't make sense of it. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. And I have been holding solid, like so tight to this truth that if I just trust in God, he will not only direct my paths, but other people's paths too as well. And so I challenge you to join me on the journey of praying, right? The Bible says wherever 2 or 3 are gathered together in his name, he's in the midst of us. And so I believe that when many of us are focused on praying about the same things, that God can bring, to fruition that peace, the clarity, just forgiveness, understanding, all of that. He can bring that. He can make that happen if we're committed to really operating from a place of love. If we're committed to praying about it. We're committed to just being consistent with that whole process. So I challenge you as a final strategy to pray, and to pray without ceasing. Pray without ceasing. There's a Bible verse that keeps coming to my mind, and it's the fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much, right? Meaning that the continuous prayer of a person who loves God avails. It happens. It comes to fruition. And I'm holding very solid and tight to that truth as well, because I believe that God will bring he will bring clarity and peace. But in the meantime, those are the things that I'm going to challenge you to do. I'm going to challenge you to speak out against racism and inequality and injustice. I'm going to challenge you to make self-care a priority. I'm going to challenge you to incorporate a strategy or skill set that you may have, like art or anything like that, or poetry or writing. I'm going to challenge you to surround yourself with people that can be there as supportive people, that you can support them, they can support you. And most of all, and most important of all, I'm going to challenge you to pray. Just keep praying. Just keep praying and do not stop. That's all I needed to share today. I just wanted you guys to know that I've been distant, but I've not been distant without thinking of you. I've not been distant without a cause. I just personally am in processing it as well, and it's very, very difficult, but I wanted you to know. I wanted to give you guys practical strategies to start to incorporate if you're looking for ways to walk in the direction of the change that we desperately need. If you guys have any other suggestions or feedback, definitely feel free to put them in the comments below. I know that there's going to be a lot of people that are looking for strategies, and maybe you've tried something that has worked for you. I'd love to hear more about it. In the meantime, I'm going to continue to take care of myself so that I can show up as the best version of myself for you guys. And most importantly, I'm going to continue to pray, and I just ask you to join me on that as well. So until next time, guys, I will chat with you later.